Former NXT North American champion is arrested. Roman Reigns, could he be losing his championships this coming weekend at Clash at the Castle? Riddle and Rollins clash on Monday Night Raw. New women's tag team champions have been crowned. All this and more in today's WWE news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. So let's start off talking about former NXT North American champion, the Velveteen Dream, because he has been arrested. And this isn't actually his first arrest. This is quite an interesting story. Now, Patrick Clark, his real name, has been arrested. Now, per court records, the former Velveteen Dream, real name Patrick Clark, was arrested in Orlando, Florida on August 26, 2022 on a charge of possession of drug paraphernalia. A separate record states that the state of Florida filed the case against Clark back on August 20, 2022. The same record also states that a hearing arraignment is scheduled to take place on September 28, 2022. Now, Clark has been mostly out of the public eye since he was released by WWE back in May of last year. Before his release, Clark went through a lot of turmoil during his time in NXT as he was accused on multiple occasions of having inappropriate contact with minors. Despite investigating the accusations, while Clark was still employed by the company, Triple H, who at the time was the executive producer of NXT, stated on numerous occasions that WWE, quote, didn't find anything. Now, in an update on this story, Mike Johnson of PW Insider has noted that Clark was actually previously arrested on August 20 for first-degree battery and trespassing on property after a warning. These offences are first-degree misdemeanors. Clark subsequently bonded out and pled not guilty. His arraignment hearing was scheduled for September 28, but it is now listed as cancelled. His last match in NXT took place on December 23, 2020. Earlier this year, Dream commented on his release and stated that he believed he was affecting WWE's bottom line. Of course, we'll continue to investigate what happens regarding the Velveteen Dream, Patrick Clark, and his legal troubles going forward. But he had recently spoke, or I'd seen some social media chatter or some websites or some people that just are Twitter people saying that the Velveteen Dream could be the next name, the latest name to come back to WWE. He could be the next name that is brought back by Triple H. And that, frankly, was laughable. You know, there's no doubt of the quality that this guy possessed. He was destined to be one of the top stars in WWE going forward. Of course, he was. I remember John Cena did that interview. Remember when he said, which NXT star do you want to face the most? Or which NXT star could be the next person to carry the company on their back after you're finished and you're done? And he said the Velveteen Dream. And it was a different gimmick, and it was a good gimmick, and he was a good worker, and he was young, and it did feel like he was going to be the guy going forward in WWE. And ultimately, the person that ruined those chances was Patrick Clark. It was himself. Now, obviously, innocent until proven guilty, and I'm sure the legal system will do what it does. But once we have more details regarding this, we don't have a ton of details, obviously, about both arrests and both situations, but once we get more, we'll speak about them here on the channel, of course. And let's switch gears and talk about Roman Reigns. Now, of course, Clash at the Castle this weekend. Big event. First WWE live stadium show in 20 years. Or 30 years, excuse me. 20 years, 30 years. 30 years! Nevertheless, Roman Reigns possibly dropping his championships, or at least one of them, is being discussed. According to a report via WrestleVote, a reputable Twitter account online, has said, quotes, "For the first time in a long time, there has been some discussions creatively regarding Roman Reigns dropping the title or titles. I'm hearing multiple ideas have intrigued those making the final call come Saturday in Cardiff. Should be an interesting week ahead." Now, of course, Roman Reigns is defending the undisputed Universal Championship against Drew McIntyre at the Principality Stadium this coming weekend. Do I expect Roman Reigns to leave Cardiff without both the Universal and WWE Championship? No. Roman Reigns this week celebrates 2 years as the Universal Champion. I do not expect Roman Reigns to leave Cardiff with at least one championship. Could there possibly be a situation where Roman Reigns leaves Cardiff without the WWE Championship? Absolutely. That is a circumstance that could happen. Now, how did they get from A to B in that situation? I'm not totally sure, honestly. The feeling that I have, or the theory that I have, pun intended there, is what could happen could be this. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, they're having the match. Maybe, Roman Reigns hits a spear, McIntyre kicks out. Roman then gets up and goes for another one. McIntyre hits a claymore. Both people are down. What happens? Theory makes his way out. He runs to the ring and he cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase. And then it's official. It's now a triple threat match. And the ring announcer gets on and says, this match is now officially a triple threat match for the... this is now a triple threat match. I don't even say what the championships is for. This is just a triple threat match. Theory picks up... or goes to pin Roman Reigns. 1, 2, Reigns kicks out. He then goes over to Drew McIntyre, gets McIntyre up on his shoulders. McIntyre slips off. Claymore. 1, 2, 3. And you think, Drew McIntyre is now the champion. He is now the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Then you read the fine print of Theory's Money in the Bank contract, and that because he is a superstar from Monday Night Raw, he is only eligible to challenge for the WWE Championship. Therefore, when he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, it became a match for the WWE Championship, and therefore, with Drew McIntyre pinning Theory, he is now the WWE Champion, but not the Universal Champion. Maybe that's the way they do it, and ultimately, WWE right now is paying for its sins when it comes to unifying or putting the championships together at WrestleMania. They have to find a way to take the WWE Championship off Roman Reigns without him losing the Universal Championship and without him losing in general. Because Roman Reigns hasn't lost in ages. And really, do they really want to have Roman Reigns lose finally at Clash at the Castle? No disrespect from the UK, for goodness sake, but it's not the right time. The time to do that is a WrestleMania, i.e. WrestleMania next year in Hollywood, in SoFi Stadium, which is a ginormous stadium. That, to me, is the place to do it, with a lot of build. Now isn't the time, I don't think. But also, at the same time, now is the time for those championships to be split up, because Raw suffers because of it. And actually, Raw is the better show right now. But you can't have... This is how wild it is. Roman Reigns is a part-time wrestler at this point. And you've got a part-time wrestler holding both world championships. The whole point, even when Brock Lesnar was the Universal Champion on Monday Night Raw for all that period of time, and he would barely show up. At least on SmackDown, you had the WWE Championship. You had a champion that was there all the time. So that it kind of balanced it out a little bit. Now, you've got both championships on the shoulders of one guy who isn't even there that much. So they at least need one champion that's going to be there all the time, and logic would say that that's going to be Drew McIntyre. Now, how they get to that point, I don't know. Do they really have Roman Reigns defeat Drew in his home country? Well, actually, it's not his home country, technically, because it's in Wales and Drew McIntyre's from Scotland, but you get my point. When Drew McIntyre's on home turf. Are they really going to do that? I don't know. And it's a bit of a difficult one. And it's not a bad thing. Again, I always say this when it comes to these sort of difficult booking decisions. It's not a bad thing. Pro wrestling is at its best when it's not predictable. And certainly the outcome for the main event in Cardiff this coming weekend is not predictable. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing for WWE. So, do I see a situation where Reigns leaves with both bouts? Yeah, I do. But I also see a situation where Roman Reigns leaves with one of them. Do I see a situation where he doesn't leave with any titles? I don't know if I can see that, honestly. They might do what I said with Theory and the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then McIntyre's holding both championships up. But on the following episode of SmackDown, it's revealed, actually, you only won the WWE Championship. Paul Heyman does some legal voodoo, I don't know, something like that. I don't know, but again, they've got to be creative. The creative team has to be creative now to figure a way to get one bout at least off Roman Reigns. That's what they've got to do, and certainly it's going to be difficult. It really is. Now, of course, Monday Night Raw was last night, the go-home show to Clash at the Castle this coming weekend. And Riddle has a first name once again. Thank goodness. Sanity, once again, rearing its head in WWE under the leadership of Triple H. Now, Raw commentator Corey Graves referred to Riddle as Matt Riddle on last night's episode of Raw prior to the original Bros heated split-screen interview segment with Seth Rollins. We'll talk about this in a second. Although not confirmed by WWE's roster page, WWE's official Twitter account also referred to Riddle as Matt Riddle in a video clip posted shortly after the segment. The former UFC fighter has been going by just Riddle since December of 2020, a change he actually welcomed at the time on social media, noting he actually prefers it since he has been called just Riddle his entire life. Now, if Riddle does indeed use his real name going forward, it would effectively mean the end of the real name edict issued by former WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon. You remember back in April when everyone started to have these name changes and everyone's names in WWE and NXT was either shortened or changed or something of that nature? Well, that was because back in April, Vince McMahon reportedly issued a memo to prohibit WWE superstars from using their real-life names or names they had previously used on the independent circuit. Although Riddle's name change happened way before that in December 2020, the new edict forced the likes of Theory, Gunther, formerly known as Walter, Ciampa, formerly known as Tommaso Ciampa, Raquel Rodriguez, formerly known as Raquel Gonzalez, Butch, formerly known as Pete Dunne, and several others to modify or change their in-ring names. There have also, it must be said, been rumblings of Theory getting his first name back. However, the Money in the Bank briefcase holder is still being referred to as just Theory and was during his segment with Johnny Gargano on Raw last night as well. It'll be interesting to see, of course, if the change occurs in the coming weeks. But this is one of those weird Vince McMahon-isms that I'm glad is over. You can't use your real name. Everyone's got to have one name as opposed to two. I guess he just liked being called Vince most of the time, right? I guess maybe that's what I didn't get it. Matt Riddle, and the annoying thing is, I suppose, is just when it's got to the point now where I'm used to calling him just Riddle, he's now Matt Riddle again. But it is what it is, and I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine. Now, last night I did see a segment, as I mentioned, between Rollins and Riddle prior to them having their match at Clash at the Castle this coming weekend. Now, some fans actually waiting outside the arena were treated to an unexpected surprise as Riddle and Rollins approached each other in the parking lot outside the arena in Pittsburgh and started brawling right there and then. Now, the fight wouldn't last long as WWE personnel swooped in to break up the altercation, but the entire situation just adds a new layer to the rivalry. Now, after the altercation, the two were separated for an interview segment during the broadcast, and this was excellent. This was really good stuff. They talked over each other before Rollins eventually got his voice heard by saying Riddle wasn't on his level. Riddle told Rollins he was going to embarrass him like Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes did before him. Rollins threatened to injure Riddle as he did to Rhodes before predicting he was going to steal the show at Clash at the Castle. Riddle then told Rollins he was going to prove there's only one man in Rollins' family, his wife Becky Lynch. And then Seth Rollins got real. And this is where it got real good. Though the interview segment ended as Raw went to a commercial break. However, when the show returned to the break, WWE showed what happened after the interview ended. And again, this was good production. It's just different. It's a different way of approaching things. And things got even more personal between the two. This is what Rollins said to Riddle, quote, "You don't have a family because your wife divorced you and your kids don't want to see your bitch ass anymore." This caused Riddle to blow up and leave to go find Rollins, but not before shouting many curse words, including the dreaded F-bomb. Now, if you're not familiar with this, Riddle and his ex-wife got divorced earlier this year. The issues between the two were aired out publicly during the final months of their 11-year marriage. I thought this was brilliant. Pro wrestling's at its best when it's real, and this was real. Now, some people could say, oh, what about the ex-wife? What about the kids and all this kind of stuff? Pro wrestling. It's pro wrestling at the end of the day, and I thought the way WWE presented this, the production, it just felt different. And again, different when it comes to WWE is good. The way that they did the brawl earlier on in the show, the interview, the way they did the interview, I thought was good. No, not revolutionary, it's the split screen, but the way they did, oh, by the way, coming back from the break, this happened, I thought that was great. I really did. I thought that was really well done, and it just adds another layer. And one thing I did really take away from this is Riddle is being presented more seriously at the moment, which is a nice change of pace. Riddle, for me, the round WrestleMania 37 last year, he was being presented as a babyface, but just a doofus, an idiot. a bumbling idiot, and he was the most anti-babyface character. He was annoying, and that's what Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard wanted to present him as. You know, he was just an idiot basically, and he was so annoying. And I think Randy Orton kind of managed to offshoot that, and obviously the chemistry he has with Orton is fantastic. But we're seeing Riddle be more serious now. Yeah, he can be stupid, or yeah, he can be, you know, obnoxious, or be Riddle, or whatever. But he can also be serious like now, and it adds that next layer. It makes him feel like a proper star. But what I will say is, as Riddle gets more and more over with the crowd, more and more over with the audience, I watched this interview and I went, man, when Randy Orton comes back and he's back from his back injury, and finally we see RK Bro back together, I can't wait for Randy Orton just to drop him with an RKO and kick him in the head. That moment will be brilliant. That will be, for me, if they plan it right, and if Riddle continues to get more and more over, that moment when Orton returns, and they should do it the same way that they did it with Triple H and Ric Flair, and it was at Monday Night Raw, I think it was Raw Homecoming 2005, and that Triple H came back and they won a tag team match, and they're holding the arms high in the air, they're celebrating, and then Triple H just bang, sledgehammer shot to the head. They got to do something like that. Just shock everyone, and as if like the whole time that Orton was away and Riddle was getting more popular, it's ate Orton up inside. I thought that's what I just kept thinking when I was watching this, and I think that moment will be a Raw moment for sure. Last night I also saw new women's tag team champions, and a bizarre finish, actually, to be honest. Now, history was made in the final of the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament last night on Raw, as Dakota Kai and Io Sky of Raw took on Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah of SmackDown to determine who would be crowned the new Women's Tag Team Champions. Now, I think most people, myself included, assumed Dakota Kai and Io Sky were going to win this match. However, the unlikely team of Rodriguez and Aaliyah ultimately came out on top with a little bit of help from Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. The trio chased Bayley out of the ringside area to level the playing field. A distracted Kai and Sky didn't notice that Rodriguez had made a blind tag to Aaliyah. The pair beat down Rodriguez before Aaliyah took the advantage and rolled up Kai for the victory. I was really surprised by this, honestly, because it's the same WWE booking, honestly. You've got a team win the tournament that isn't really a team. There were two singles people put together. Now, you could argue, well, it gets Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah more over, but it just felt like they went with this because it wasn't what people were expecting. And in certain instances, like, it makes sense for Io Sky and Dakota Kai to win that. And you could argue, well, it adds more to the match at Clash at the Castle and adds more to that program. But it doesn't really, because them holding the championships would mean more. Dakota Kai and Io Sky holding the Women's Tag Team Championships, and eventually Bayley defeating Bianca Belair, which is where this is going, let's be honest, would mean more. So unless they want to stretch it out a little bit and establish another team, I don't know. But I found this booking decision odd, to be honest with you, and we'll see where they go with it. Finally, Clash at the Castle, another match has been announced, and it will see Edge team up with his former tag team partner and tag team champion partner. Because back in the day, of course, Edge and Rey Mysterio were two of the legendary SmackDown 6. From 2002 to 2004, the likes of Mysterio, Edge, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, and Chavo Guerrero were featured heavily on SmackDown as some of the most critically acclaimed matches at the time. Edge and Mysterio even formed a tag team and went on to win the WWE Tag Team Championship when they implemented those championships on SmackDown. That whole tournament and some of the matches that they had during those periods of time were just incredible. Go and look up some of the triple threat tag team matches, or Benoit and Angle versus Edge and Mysterio, or Los Guerreros. They're brilliant. I mean, honestly, that whole tag team tournament is just unbelievable. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. Now, after last night's edition of Raw, the former tag team champions will reunite this coming weekend. The ongoing feud between Edge and his former stable, the Judgment Day, Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, have got involved in. The father and son duo even teamed up to take on Judgment Day in a no disqualification tag team match at SummerSlam last month, which of course they ended up winning thanks to interference from a returning Edge. At Clash at the Castle, Rey Mysterio will be involved in another tag team match against the Judgment Day, this time though teaming up with his old partner Edge. This will be the first time the two stars have teamed up with each other in a 2-on-2 tag team match in nearly 20 years. After it was announced that Edge and Rey would be teaming, Rey's son Dominic was not happy. He voiced his displeasure in a backstage segment with his father, believing it was going to be a family-only matter. However, after talking it out with Rey, Dominic eventually agreed to appear at Clash of the Castle in his dad and Edge's corner. This seemed to be teasing a heel turn from Dominic, which has kind of been what they've been teasing for a while, whether he'll join Judgment Day or not. I don't know if he will, honestly. I feel like it might be a red herring. It feels like it would be too simple, honestly. But maybe they will go in the direction of Dominic, costing them the match, and then what will they build to? I don't know. I mean, it feels like they're building to a 6-person tag team match with Edge and Beth Phoenix and Rey Mysterio versus Balor, Priest, and Rhea Ripley. But maybe Dominic will get involved in that. I'm not sure. But we'll have to wait and see this coming weekend, of course. So there you go, guys. That's your latest WWE news. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.